My name is Janis Farmer. I'm delighted to be with you this evening. I'm going to start, uncharacteristically for me, with a bit of a joke. This is a piece from Bloom County from the mid-'80s that I had on my bulletin board at my day job desk for years and years and years and years and years, and it came to me when I was preparing this talk. It's a young boy who's asleep, and we'll just assume this is a dream. So he's asleep, and suddenly the door bursts open, and a knight comes riding in on a steed with a lance, and he's completely dressed in mail. And he says, "Arise, young knight, awake, awake, adventure, adventure." And the kid's going, "What?" And the knight says, "Castles, dragons, princesses, adventure, come on, get on the horse, let's go." And the kid says, "I have a report to do on snails tomorrow. I can't go with you." And the knight says, "Suit yourself," and he leaves. And the kid says to himself, "I wonder when I'm a grown-up, and I've got a dog and 2.5 kids and a minivan, if I'm going to regret this or not." And I had that on my bulletin board for a decade at least, because I wanted to remember that. Because to me, that kid with the snail report and the 2.5 kids and the dog represented the status quo. And I didn't see that as being what I wanted, without saying that the status quo is a bad thing. It just wasn't my thing. So the place I want to start with my talk is to talk about the rightness of the status quo. And so many people in congregations that I have known live and move and have their being in this place called the status quo. And that's okay, because that's what works for them. And as I was reflecting on what creates this thing called the status quo, I started making a list. And the list goes something like, there's a myth called security as found in the status quo. Most recently, it was birthed in the generations that lived through the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, 2 world wars, among many other wars, the arms race, duck and cover. Do any of you remember duck and cover? What? Yeah. The Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, repeated possibilities of nuclear annihilation, and now we talk about GMOs, and so on, and so on, and so on. So all of these things, these external experiences, form the basis of a whole lot of people's lives. And they create a need or a desire or a sense of artificial safety for a lot of people. And they believe if they act in this space, if I behave like I'm supposed to, then it'll be okay. So contrast that, the boy with the report on snails, with the knight saying, "Hey, kid, let's go, adventure awaits." And I know in my congregation at home, and in the people that I meet on a daily basis, there really are people that gravitate to both camps, to both groups. And I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable because they find the status quo to be a safe space for them. I would like, if I could, by some magic steed, lance, magic knight, inspire them to get out of their box a little bit. But if not, I can't make them wrong for being where they are and finding that to be their place. A quote from Ray Bradbury from the book Fahrenheit 451. "I hate a Roman named status quo. Stuff your eyes with wonder. Live as if you'll drop dead in 10 minutes. See the world. It's more fantastic than any dream ever made in factories. Ask no guarantees. Ask for no security. There never was such an animal. If so, it would be related to the great sloth, that hangs upside down in a tree all day, sleeping its life away. To heck with that. I have edited this for PG audiences. To heck with that, he said, shake the tree and knock the great sloth down on his ears. So, with the status quo as a basis, I want to move into a series of talks that my talk is number 3 in the series. The series is called Blossoms Happen, and it's about recognizing and embodying possibility and recognizing the bloom that can come and grow and create as we create our life. My particular talk is called Bear Much Fruit. The précis is, life expresses in, as, and through us as we know and express ourselves more completely. And our founder, Ernest Holmes, this is for you, Steve, our founder, Ernest Holmes, said, quoting John 15:8, "Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit." He went on to say, when we express a greater livingness, then life is more completely expressing itself through us. A barren tree does not express the principle of abundance and production, so a life barren of good does not fully express the divine ideal. Evolution has brought man to a point of self-expression, and it can do no more for him until he consciously chooses to cooperate with it. The law is one of growth and unfoldment. So then we go back to the folks that are comfortable with status quo. And I recognize my task as an orator, I guess that's what you'd call me, is to inspire those folks that are sitting in that space of, life is really good, I've got what I want, I can manifest what I need, I don't really need to grow, to take another step. And I had a conversation with a member of our congregation this week, in fact, and he's a new person in our group, and he's a lovely, lovely, lovely human being, and he has lived his entire life as a 12-stepper, and that saved his life. And so we were talking in the garage, and he said, you know, I'm taking foundations and I'm really screwed because I have never been told it was safe for me to make a choice because my choices were always bad. And now here I'm sitting in foundations and I'm supposed to decide stuff. I'm supposed to actually make choices and have purposes rather than just being happy and being content and being in the space that I am. And I don't know how to do this. So it's going to be a glorious adventure for him to move from I am powerless and my life is unmanageable, which is the first step of the 12-stepper program. That did save his life. And for him to move forward and say, and I actually am okay making choices and making decisions now. And that's a magnificent step forward for him. We've been wondering in our education corps why so many of our folks weren't interested in taking classes. Suddenly the light bulb comes on. If I can't be trusted to make decisions, then please don't make me make them. Oh, that. So a light bulb came on for me this week, talking with this young man about how to move forward in a way where he can feel comfortable making choices, which is really cool. Stephanie Plum, in Janet Ivanovich's Hard 8, said, "Who cares if you pick a black ball or a white ball? Don't leave it to chance. Look in the bag and pick the color you want." And then my favorite story people showed up this week again. "I used to wait for a sign," she said, "before I did anything. Then one night I had a dream and an angel in black tights came to me and said, 'You can start any time now.' And then I said, 'Is this a sign?' And she started laughing and I woke up. Now I think the world is filled with signs, but if there's no laughter, I know it's not for me." And then the quote from Joseph Campbell that we all know, "If you follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you. Pages stick. That has been there all the while waiting for you, and the life that you ought to be living is the one you're living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in your field of bliss, and they open doors to you. I say follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know that they were going to be. If you follow your bliss, doors will open for you that wouldn't have opened for anyone else. So this young man is having doors open for him that didn't even exist for me or for anyone else. They were his doors. Because he said, okay, I'll do this. I'll give it a try. I'll see what happens. So, what happens when you try it and it goes really, 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 really sideways? Our dear friend Mike Dooley, sometimes when it seems your wings have suddenly and unexpectedly been clipped, maybe, just maybe, there's more to learn by staying where you are. And maybe not. You get to decide. So I love the visual image in my mind of little kids playing a game. And they've decided how it should go and who's going to do what, and it doesn't work out quite the way they plan. And so it's like, no, do over. Let's try that again. And that's the challenge for us as speakers and for us as livers. To go, oh, well, that wasn't good at all. I guess I need a do-over. No recrimination, no judgment, no limitation. Just, oh, do-over. Okay, cool. Try again. And so what's the takeaway? You can't see the clock from up here. So what's the takeaway? Alan Cohen, a fellow who wrote a book called Dare to Be Yourself, How to Quit Being an Extra in Other People's Movie and Become the Star of Your Own. It takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure, to embrace the new. But there's no real security in what's no longer meaningful. There's more security in the adventurous and the exciting, for in movement there is life, and in change there is power. And dear Anne Lamott, if we believe the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, old Uncle Jesus said, if you bring forth what is inside you, you bring forth what will save you. If you don't bring forth what is inside of you, what you bring forth can destroy you. So the challenge to own what's inside you, to try it, to step in it sometimes, but to move with it, to move through it, to be in it, to have the experience, to collect experiences. And some will be great, and some will be not so much. But it doesn't matter, because the sum of the experience is what makes the being called each one here. And I think, David Thoreau, do what you love, know your own bone, gnaw at it, bury it, unearth it, and gnaw it some more. Thank you very much.